Hey guys, Mike from Boyer Bows. Okay, so what I'm going to do today is introduce a little bit into how I make a jig for the bending of the limbs in the bows. So right here you can see I have this is the one I used on the Lakota bow. I had originally thought about doing this big reflex, maybe even recurve tip, and then coming into kind of a deflex, back to a reflex into a flat handle. I'm not comfortable with this big deflex part, and my curves were not symmetrical, so what I've been basically doing is just using this reflex or recurve curve and then pinning it down on this end. But let me show you how I went about getting this form made. Alright, what I have here is a piece of pine. It's just industrial lumber. It's technically a 2 by 10 or 2 by 12. I don't actually remember what I got, but either 2 by 10, 2 by 12, they'll both work. It was, let's go over it. 2 by 10. It looks like a 2 by 12. So we'll go 2 by 12 by several feet. Now I've cut it down to this length. Just in the process of life, I ended up with this scrap piece. And one of the easiest ways to make a jig, how to figure out what your curves are going to be, is to use somebody else's bow, or use a bow that you like. This happens to be a limb off my takedown Samick Sage. What I could do is I always like using the natural edge of the wood. This would be the handle. I have a 5 inches for my handles, but then what I would do is just line this up the way I want it, making it kind of flush with the board, and then drawing a line either on this end, like that, and then just use a jigsaw to cut that out. And then what I did with this old form was, after I had basically cut that out, I drilled holes with a 1.25 inch hole drilling die, and just did it several places for me to put my GC clamps, whatever they're called, put my clamps. Now, the problem I've come up with is that the clamping down in this part of the bow where it's got a lot of tension, even if it's well steamed or well bent or well heated, whatever, it's really hard to get this area clamped down. As well as the clamps are not made to go into these round holes, they're made to go on flat surfaces. So this new jig idea I have, I drew out, let me go over my projected measurements here. I gave myself 5 inches for the handle. My risers are usually 5 inches on my bows, so that's how I will know that I'm even on both sides of the limb. I'll have the entire 5-inch riser area in this zone, flush against this straight surface. I'm going to begin a slight reflex for the next 24 inches of the bow. And then for the next 6 inches, I plan on having a more extreme curve, or reflex or recurve, that's going to fit into this little L shape. Now, the idea here is when you take your bow, this is just a stave at this point, but the stave will fit in here and be trapped by this L-shaped thing here, and you can just bend it around. And then I'm going to cut a flat rectangle here and here so that the clamps have a flat surface to push down on the limbs to keep them bent. That's the experiment, that's the goal. How did I come up with this particular line? I just eyeballed it. Honestly, I just eyeballed it. I know I wanted a slight reflex off the handle and then a major reflex for the tip. And outside of that, I had no other plan. So there you go. Alright, so I'm going to cut this out and I'll come back and show you the finished product, and then in the next build along we're going to use this. But that's the cheating way, is just to find a bow you like and trace it. Trace the curves. You could use a whole bow here, or you can find a limb you like and just trace the inside part you will be cutting, which is the inside part here. Trace that out on your board, cut along the line, and go. Or you can do what I did and eyeball it. There really is no set rule. Of course, some things better than others, and some people might prefer things, you know. Some people might prefer to do a deflex reflex or a reflex deflex or whatever they like, and go with that. You know, play with it. Make bows. The more bows you make, the more you're going to learn, the more you're going to figure out. Anyway, this is what I'm going for, and we'll catch you guys later. I'm Mike from Boyer Bows, and this is the start of the jig making process.